Good night. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. Um, Here's this by Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. In fact, it might even be something he wrote in Citeaux. But no, he's a Cistercian monk, doctor of the church, and he was in Citeaux, but mostly in Clairvaux, Bernard of Clairvaux. And it's a sermon on the Song of Songs. The Holy Spirit will teach you all. He will give you peace. You see that he who is guided by the Spirit does not always remain in the same state. He does not always advance with the same facility. The course of man is not in his control. So good to remember. The course of man is not in our control. It rather depends on the guidance of the Spirit, who sets the pace as he pleases, sometimes torpidly, sometimes blithely, teaching us, to forget the past and to strain ahead for what is still to come. In fact, I'm going to reread this using it in first person as us, or third person, but having to do with us. So, we see, he who is guided by the Spirit does not always remain in the same state. We do not always advance with the same facility or ease of advancing. The course of ourselves, of man or of woman, is not in our control. It rather depends on the guidance of the Spirit, who sets the pace as he pleases, sometimes torpidly, sometimes blithely, teaching us to forget the past and to strain ahead for what is still to come. If we have been attentive, I think you will have seen that your inward experience echoes what we have outwardly described, or what the Holy Spirit has outwardly described. Therefore, when we feel weighed down by apathy, lukewarmness, and fatigue, do not yield to cowardice or cease to study spiritual truths, but look for the hand of the one who can help you, begging like the bride to be drawn, until finally, under the influence of grace, you feel again the vigorous pulse of life. Then you will run and shout out, I run the way of your commandments, since you have enlarged my heart. That's how we're going to learn to love and take things in stride as they come in our life and lead to our earthly death or our increasing disability. If you have a disability and one that progresses and it doesn't have any set pattern to it. So, get to the next section on this. When you feel happy, beware of boasting. Nothing can ever shake me, for you may be compelled to repeat for yourself the psalmist's sad comment, but then you hid your face, and I was terrified. If you are wise, you will try to follow the advice of the wise man. In the time of adversity, not to be unmindful of prosperity, and in the time of prosperity, not to be forgetful of adversity. This will keep your hopes buoyant in times of hardship and give you foresight when fortune favors you. You will ride above the vicissitudes of good and evil times with the poise of one sustained by values that are eternal, with that enduring, unshakable equanimity of the man of faith who thanks God in every circumstance. So even amid the fluctuating events and inevitable shortcomings of this giddy world, would you will ensure for yourself a life of durable stability, provided you are renewed and reformed according to the glorious and original plan of the eternal God. So that it's just a good reminder of God is in control. God will guide our paths, and the holy narrow pathway should always be before us as a choice, And when evil gets to us and concerns and upsets, trials, always remember, we may get upset like Job, but Job's already done that, it didn't work for him. I was telling myself that today, Job already did all his complaining. There's no sense in me complaining or comparing myself or going back. Like it says here, don't go back. Always face present and future. But, just always at least try to love God. Love God, and He'll help us love others. Just like already by later last night, I realized, that I hadn't been like that in a long time. It may have been the devil, in part, coming in on me because I'm worn out, and the pain was just really horrific, getting to me, really severe. The nerve pain is unnerving, as they say. And when it went to both arms, it's just, instead of getting better, getting worse. No matter what, the physical therapist was trying everything he knew. And he's very specialized in the spine. So, but then I realized, no, the devil is moving in on me in my exhaustion and in my upset and the unknown of it and the pressure, feeling the pressure still of the HOA men watching from their houses, that I'm not getting that much done. And don't believe that I have a pain problem at all. So, I was letting that get to me. And even though they hadn't done anything more, they haven't done anything for a week, still it was eating on me. But I had to just stop all that and, just go to the next step. And that was physical therapy the next day and the pain doctor. Hope with the pain doctor that something could be done. And the physical therapist said too, I just so hope the pain doctor can come up with something, because he says, I can't think of anything. But at least he was helping in the moment with, keeping it loosened up and trying. It had to have somebody try with you gives you so much hope, as opposed to someone who says, there's nothing I can do. But I did call the neurosurgeon's office and said, I'll do that block, especially if it's in the thoracic spine area, because today I could feel the pain shooting out from between the shoulder blades, but from my spine. The nerve pain was shooting out to the left and a little to the right. So I knew it was coming at least in part from there, for whatever reason. So I ended up, the pain doctor immediately could tell. I mean, he knows I've gone to him for 6.5 years. And I was laying there on the hard little surface, and what can I do? I said, I need help. I really need help. Can't take it anymore, And he knew. So he gave me injections of steroid. And he felt around, he could feel these lumps back there, because the nerve pain has caused my muscles to tighten. And he also said it's red and inflamed and swollen. In between the spine and each shoulder blade. But he can actually feel. He says, "Does this hurt?" Yes. He's got a good touch. So he got steroid injections, and he injected about 7 or 8 times in the left side. He found all those spots. And he injected like 4 or 5 times in the right side. I think it was 5. So I have lots of steroid in me. And even within minutes, it did feel some better. But he looked up my MRI that was recently done. He hadn't seen the report. The neurosurgeon had. And I had read something where it said it wasn't all that much change. But this pain doctor said, no, he said, listen to this, and he read from it. He got it online. These things the doctors can get it up themselves by having our birth dates and things. They can access the different MRI places. This was a hospital system that did it. And he says he listed out the vertebrae, the levels, and it happened to be in the neck. And he said, it says here severe narrowing of these, I forget what they're called, but they're the two holes that come out of each vertebrae with nerves that come out. There's two holes on each side of each vertebrae in our spinal cord, and a nerve comes out of each of those holes. And he says, and the one that is severe, the ones that are severe are the ones that go down your arm and into your last two fingers, your outside fingers. And I said, but it's my whole hand. When I wake up, and it's from if I lay down or sleep or in bed resting and it flares like that. It's the whole hand, and it goes totally numb then. But the nerve pain is, I said, excruciating. So my mind can't take it anymore. I'm not good with myself. I didn't want to say, because you're not to say the S word, because they have to report. So we have our little signals. He knows. He knew that I was at my wit's end, literally, with handling this. And I even told him I doubled my breakthrough pain meds. He said, well, did it help? He didn't yell at me, oh, you're not supposed to do that without permission. No, because they know. They get to know a patient and know. And so thank God for this pain doctor taking action. And he says, we're going to have to do this monthly, because he says, this MRI isn't good. But the neurosurgeon, I think why he didn't say anything, because 2 years ago he told me it was very bad then. And it's not significantly worse. It was bad then, but the narrowing is severe, more severe now in these areas that are causing that. Plus, my mid-spine is so bad that's what is causing the added pains going out into my, from the mid-back, and then that's going up into my shoulder. I can feel it even now, but just raw with pain back there. But the steroids really helped, and I felt really encouraged that something was done. I felt relief. I was able to go to Costco and get the dog food. And what else did I get? Oh, a roasted chicken. So then I got home, and I had some beets that had been in the refrigerator that I wanted to chop and roast in the oven with olive oil and different herbs. I need to have food that's prepared and in the freezer so that I can eat on it for a while. Because to stand and do separate meals, it causes so much pain. It's best if I just do the pain all at once standing. So I stood and did those beets. I had already done a separate step of washing and scrubbing them earlier this morning because I can't do it all at once. It's just too bad now. And I remind myself, arachnoiditis is progressive. And it's probably best when we have a disability, don't anticipate. I didn't anticipate any of this. And I still don't know, how fast it progresses. Or I did call and left the message with the neurosurgeon. I'm willing to do the block, especially if it's in the thoracic area. He said he had a different kind of block he could do than the 3 I had in the fall that did nothing. with a different doctor, but he had ordered it. So I'll hear back from them, because the steroid is just temporary. And it's not the best thing to have a steroid every month, and that amount too. But it has been a relief so far. I got very, very horrific pain when I did the beets after the injections, standing to chop them. I had, I don't know, maybe 9 beets. And they're hard, but I had to cut them and put them in little chunks. And a big red onion, I do that with it. And I forgot to put, but the pan was full enough. Then I drizzle the olive oil and get the herbs from the garden, and that moving around helps some. But it's just nothing I anticipated. And there's lots of work still to be done here, but I'm just going to, well, the neighbor mentioned, she's, oh, I'm concerned. She said, what are you going to do? How are you going to manage all this? And it was true, but I said to her, I'm going to just say, Jesus, I trust in you. I decided, don't panic, don't worry about what's next. Just the same attitude earlier in the morning of love God. Just keep loving God. Keep loving God. And then no matter what happens to us, doesn't have to be what I have, whatever you get sometime. Just keep trying. And then I told the neighbor, she says, well, what are you going to do when you can't get up from bed? And she says, I'm worried you're not getting sleep, because bed has always been your best place. And now you can't be up. I can't, laying down is painful. So it's like I'm not making it either way. But I said, no, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to do the best I can and try to enjoy life, try to enjoy. And then when I can't, I said, I'm going to figure out what to do then. I'm going to wait on God, trust in God. And I've got to keep that focus, though. Keep that focus. And it's 120 here. And all that steroid, I think, has me a little bit hyped or something. But I thought that was a good plan. It came to me. I thought, just calm and pray and ask God what you're to do. And that Jesus, I trust in you, came to me, the divine mercy. Jesus, I trust in you. And don't listen too much to other people, or because they'll worry for you. My neighbor's very loving, and immediately says, well, what are you going to do? And, what if you can't get up? Or what's going to happen here with your house, or with, trying to do your yard, or any of it? And that's when I said, I'm going to trust in Jesus and see how the steroid goes, if that can get me a little further. And I said, I have to stop letting the HOA men pressure me. It's in my mind. I cannot let them pressure me in my mind. I just can't do that. I said, I'm going to enjoy what I can. And then when I do need to make an ultimate decision about, if I'm going to be bedridden, or what will happen if they can't get this pain taken care of with steroids enough. So love God and trust in Jesus. So it seemed like the best plan. And communicate, communicate with others. My sister doesn't tend to talk on the phone, and she texted, and then I couldn't I couldn't hold the phone with my left arm. It was too painful with it and texting. So I said, I texted enough. I said, you can call me, but she won't call. My next elder sister won't. She gets, I think it's her depression or something. But I can't text. So we're just not going to communicate then, unless I have a really good day. But I can put the phone down on a counter or by the bed and put it on speakerphone if somebody wants to talk, a relative or something. But then I did do a little bit of typing later after all this steroids in me. But I'm going to be very careful I'm not going to text in general because I don't want to get this flared up. I can't afford that level of pain. I can't afford it emotionally and psychologically. And I'm going to do what Father Vincent told me to do on Sunday. He says, pray for the grace. Pray to God for grace. Because I said, I don't know if I'm going to make it to my natural end. I don't want to die the wrong way. You know what I'm talking about. And the pain can get bad. So I don't want to get in that position. So I'm praying to God for the grace to make it to my natural end. And I may not need to do that, but I'm thinking on those things ahead. Holy narrow pathway things, big things. So we'll see what happens. And I'm planning on moving some trees tomorrow, and so thankful for the steroid in my back. I'm glad that he didn't puncture the lungs. I don't know if it was he said, now hold still. He says, this really makes me nervous. He says, you're so thin and you're bony and your skin. He says, I don't want to accidentally puncture your lung with doing these injections. And I was in so much pain. I said, don't worry about it. I don't care what happens. I said, just do something about this pain, please, please. So, he 12 or 13 jabs. And he said, now this is a jab. And that's a sensitive area, but it's so much pain. I didn't even feel it. I didn't even care. I asked the physical therapist to break my neck. Seriously. He was cracking it and also doing my ribs. He got some cracks out of the ribs because he was still thinking, maybe a rib was caught or stuck, but not loose, not, they have movement to them. But no, and he said, started on my neck. I said, please, just go ahead and break it. I don't care. Do me a favor, But I was serious then, but talking crazy. But the pain will do that. So I'm praying for the grace to keep my wits about me. And the dogs help with that. But see, there'll come a time I won't be able to have those dogs. So, but I've got an idea that if my daughter and her friend would move in here, they could have the whole upstairs, the kitchen, whatever. And because they travel a lot anyway with their work. And she could rent her townhome. I realized I cannot trade with her. I cannot stand on the tile on top of concrete. That was a lot what did me in yesterday painting that ceiling, I realized. I was standing on concrete. It's amazing when you have a bad spine, a lot of nerve damage in your spine, and it's worsened. Arachnoiditis is progressive. I remind myself of that. Because I didn't know I even had it till 6 years ago. And I didn't realize that I had something that was progressive because I learned years ago to put my mind out, but not out as far as I do it now, which is dangerous when I drive if I feel that sensation. So there's lots of things I have to be very careful about. And always make sure I take something to drink with me so I can do something conscious. And maybe if this helps some of you guys who are in some kind of suffering, that you have to develop a system to avoid the pitfalls of the suffering, of what it can cause you to do without realizing or not wanting to. So, but yeah, and other people then, like my neighbor, was panicking for me. And, what are you going to do? I'm just worried. And to remember, it's nothing right now. It could be, I guess I could wake up tomorrow and be in horrible pain. It's part of the reason why I have trouble going to sleep. I think I've had this for a couple months or 6 weeks anyway. I can't remember when it started. But the intensity of it has been for at least a couple weeks. And the sleep deprivation, or maybe 3 weeks even. So, but can't let other people panic for us. Don't be panicked, and don't start making jump to conclusions. I said, I'll wait and find out. And I said, I'll decide that time when I can't get up. I'll decide then I'll have to make a decision then on what to do. But to know in advance that we're going to have to do that then. Have some ideas. Already God put an idea. The one of if my daughter would, I know they wouldn't want it. She would not want it. But you never know. She may say, I'll do it for the old lady. Well, I wouldn't be in their way at all, but I know it can feel awkward or something. But and then on good days, I could do the landscaping for them and whatever. Get the place finished. I have to get the place finished. Upstairs is pretty much done. They'll have some work to do on the bathroom, but well, anyway, that's what's what. And it did make sense that something was not right in the MRI. But I think it's, just slightly more than it was bad 2 years ago, very bad. But nothing like this. I didn't have the symptoms 2 years ago. And sadly, this is just getting worse and getting into the right arm now. It wasn't going away. So, thank God for steroid. And I know over time it is bad for you. But I'm at that time. So we accept. You have to accept. And I should probably make a list of things for when something gets bad, then I can look at it. Love God no matter what will be number one. And another reminder, Job already did all the complaining and resenting and worrying about what have I done in my life to deserve this, Don't repeat. Job did it for us. So God bless his real presence in us, and praying for all of you. Some of you have, I still think mental and emotional suffering is the worst. So some of you may have that. My sister has depression, so mental suffering, or emotional, I suppose. My dear friend in the Midwest has mental illness. But it makes a difference if you have somebody there with you, though. But in a hermit's case, we're a reminder, and we should always remind ourselves, we're never alone. See, God put the ideas in my mind. God worked it out that the pain doctor had this opening. With both arms today bad, I don't think I'd have made it another day if I'd had, or until June 12th at all. So God worked it all out. To remember that. Whether we're with other people or not, know that God does all these things. So I'll come up with a list. That's probably a good idea. because when you get into the depth of pain or depression or my friend, if her medications aren't just right, she had to see her psychiatrist today for a check on all that. They do blood tests and different things because one time they weren't, and they didn't realize her medicines weren't working well in her body. They had shifted somehow, and she nearly killed herself. I mean, she made the attempt, and her husband had done like a 10-minute, real fast, dropped something off in the car. He had to go someplace. And he never does now. He never leaves her, ever, after that. Because he came back, and she was on the sofa, and she'd taken medications, and had made a list, and I was on the list too, that she thought it was God telling her. A voice had been telling her. She thought it was God. That if she would take her life, my life, and other people on the list lives, including her husband, her son, her daughter, adult daughter, would be better off without her. It was all twisted. It was the devil. It wasn't God speaking to her, obviously, or it was the illness speaking, really, because she just about didn't make it. She was in ICU for a while, and we were all praying. And she's a very holy, but she has become so holy. She wasn't in her right mind. And it was the medication, so she has to get those checked monthly. So, I wrote to her some of this and said, you probably can relate with how this is, that we don't know how things will go, but we keep trying and we keep loving God. God bless you all. Sleep well.